Okay, you're all set.
Okay. Welcome to a meeting of the Town of Barnstable Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee. Today is December 19th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded by the Town of Barnstable and will be broadcast on Channel 18 after the meeting has been concluded. The agenda for this meeting is available on the town website. Welcome, everybody. Chuck, will you call the roll, please?
I will. Hector,
Yes, here.
Lillian,
Here.
Neil,
Here.
Wendy.
Here.
Is Jackie here?
Yep.
Excellent.
Or I
And-
think that's Jackie. I don't know.
Yes.
Excellent. Do we have a quorum?
Thank you.
Right.
Our first item of business is to approve the minutes of the August 22nd meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
I move.
Second?
I second.
It's been moved and second to approve the meeting minutes of August 22nd. Are there any comments or corrections? Not hearing any. Chuck, will you call the roll, please?
I certainly will. Hector,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Jackie. Well, I can't hear Jackie, but I approve. So that's enough votes to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yep.
Jackie, we can hear you, but can't see you.
Right. We saw you a minute ago. We are so delighted to have two new members joining us, Jackie Johnson and Neil Kleinfeld. So we will, if you would just each give us a short introduction of who you are and your interest in CFAC. But before you do it, the sitting members, if you would just introduce yourself so they'll know who you are. Hector?
So I'm Hector Gunther. I'm vice chair. I've been on the committee for about 4 years, and my background is corporate finance in New York.
I'm
Hi.
Lillian, and I'm the chair, and I've been on this committee since 2013, and I'm an economist and have done state budgets for the last 35 years.
Oh, I don't know, Lillian, you're outdoing us. I'm Wendy Solomon. I've been on the committee for 2 years. Worked in New York City and in Boston on the investment side of the world, and ran my own department. So I had to balance budgets and make sure that we were allocating things properly. It doesn't really prepare you for the municipal scene, but I'm trying.
Okay. Chuck?
And Chuck McKenzie. I've been on the committee for a couple of years, I think. And I spent 40 years in the institutional money management.
And
And,
there's Paula.
and since I'm on the screen, I'm Paula Schnepp. I'm a town councilor representing Precinct 12, and I am the current liaison to this committee.
And we want to thank you very much, Paula, for expediting our new members' approval by the town council.
Most welcome.
Jackie, if you would give us a short description of yourself, please.
Can't hear you, Jackie.
I can neither hear you nor see you.
Yeah.
Oh, still no hearing.
Jackie, you may need to go off your video so that we can hear you. I don't.
Jackie, we cannot hear you. can you hear us?
You may have to exit the meeting and come back in.
Yeah, if you would do that.
I know my last computer, I couldn't do audio on it,
Yeah.
so it may be a similar situation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Why don't we move to Neil while we're waiting for Jackie to get herself organized? Neil, welcome.
Well, thank you. My name is Neil Kleinfeld. I spent most of my career actually in management consulting. What qualifications I have in finance is actually started out as an engineer and then got an MBA. I spent my first 6 years in the private sector working for Xerox in both division and corporate finance. So I'm a little bit like Wendy, all in the private sector, but I'm getting up to speed on the public sector. And I even understand Proposition 2.5 now, so, but I've got a ways to go.
Well, thank you. Jackie, are you back with us?
I'm almost there.
Oh,
Okay.
Good. We
Perfect.
can hear you now.
I'm using another computer and it's logging on, but it says it didn't give me an option from somewhere else. So can I log off the first computer and you sign me into this one?
Okay.
All right. Whoops.
Did she log off?
She left the meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Well, when she rejoins the meeting, meanwhile, let's
Should Mark introduce himself for Neil's benefit?
thank you.
I'm-
Thank you, Hector.
absolutely.
I've read a lot. I understand who Mark is. Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard, Neil. Thank you. Thank you for joining this group. We appreciate your help. And yeah, I just by way of quick introduction, I've been the director of finance here for 25 years now. Actually had my 25th anniversary here last Friday at the Years of Service Awards.
Wow.
Great.
So
Congrats.
thank you.
Right.
Thank you. So, prior to that, I spent several years in the public accounting profession, doing audits, tax returns, all that fun stuff, and decided to join the municipal world. And so here I am, and here I've been for 25 years. Welcome aboard.
Okay, while we're waiting for Jackie to get back in, is there any member of the public who is here who would like to make a comment? All right, do we have a meeting calendar for next year, Mark? Are we going to go the second and fourth Mondays?
Yes, we're going to go the second and fourth Mondays as we have this year. I will send that calendar out to everyone. There's, I think, one exception where there's a holiday on a particular Monday. I think it's in the fall. We'll move that meeting to Tuesday evening instead, and we'll only meet on the second Monday in the months of July and August as we have in the past.
Right, okay. Thank you. We'll look forward to getting that official calendar. Wendy and Chuck went to the CIP task force meeting. So would you guys give us your assessment and comments, Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, the meeting was extremely informative. I am a little confused about the duplication of some of the projects. It seems like there's a lot of playground projects in a lot of different villages. So in just listening to some of the projects, it seems like a lot of departments need the same thing.
Mhm.
For example, a lot of like school needs storage, a bunch of the different organizations need a lot of storage. So I found it interesting that there were so many areas that were similar in need. And I just don't know how that flushes out, you know.
Yeah. But they're
Obviously,
all at different locations.
there are different locations, the playground. I think there was one in Marston's Mills, Centerville, Osterville, Hyannis. There were a lot of playground, you know, park type projects, and I'll have to review the rankings again, but it seemed like there was a lot of similar projects in different villages that maybe could be, you know, maybe one or two could be submitted instead of all five. But that was just my general take.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Chuck?
So I did what I usually do. I take a lot of notes. So by my count, the group around the table discussed 53 different. Whoops, no, I'm lying. Look at that. I missed one of my own pages. Well over 65 different submissions. It was an interesting process. As an old process guy, it'll be interesting to see how things get brought together, because at least at the outset, I think for the first, Mark, you can correct me, or Wendy, but I think the first 48 things that were discussed basically rotated. So it was the number one ranking from each of the groups, then they went to the number two ranking from each of the groups. But what the process doesn't do, at least at that point, is, you know, consider whether submission 4 from group 2 is actually a bigger impact than submission 2 from group 3. There's a presupposition that, at least that I saw, that 1s are 1s and 2s are 2s and 3s are 3s. I assume that all comes out in the wash when the process goes through. But people were asked, again, Mark, you can correct me, in the meeting to, you know, score each of the topics that were discussed. And so for me, just observing, there was a little contextual problem because I didn't know what was going to come later. I wouldn't know how to rank something that I heard earlier. I could say, gee, it sounds important and we ought to do it. But there was also a lot of good dialogue kind of towards the end of the meeting when people started questioning why, you know, a particular department's number 8 submission wasn't the number 2 submission. And there were some good responses. You know, some of them are mandated, some of them are safety issues. So if the impact might not be as great, the risk in not doing was more substantive. So I assume this stuff all comes out in the wash. But it was a terrific, you know, 3 or 4 hours that we spent doing this, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure everybody wants to see how sausage gets made, but I assume this is going to taste pretty good when it comes out.
Thank you. Jackie, are you back with us?
I am here.
Okay, would you provide us with a short description of yourself and your interest in CFAC, please? We're so happy that you're with us.
I am currently serving as a pastor here in town of the Rock Ministries, and I have been interested in the community in general. That's the reason I wanted to become part of CPAC, because I understand the impact that it makes for the community at large. I have also had a background in finance and accounting for as long as I probably out of college. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your joining us.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to Mark. Oh, before we do that, Hector, do you have any comments or before you have to leave?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I'm just happy we're all meeting together again.
Yes, it's very nice.
Officially. So
Yeah.
special thanks to Neil and Jackie for joining this august group. And Neil, like you, I have a big background in corporate finance, so I had to learn what was the difference between a capital budget and an operating budget. But Mark and Lillian have schooled me pretty well, so I'm getting up to speed after 4 years.
Yeah.
So welcome, Jackie and Neil.
Thank you.
Before you leave, which of the subcommittees would you like to head this year?
Oh boy, I haven't even. I'm not even plugged into which subcommittees are open.
Well, we're only doing CIP and operating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to, I think I did operating last year, and I'm happy to do
Yeah,
that again this year.
I think you did CIP last year.
All right,
Yeah.
then pardon?
Yeah, you did do CIP last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lillian, where would I best be used, in your opinion?
Well, you've been doing CIP for a number of years. And I think that it's your call. You can either stay there because you have a level of expertise now in how that process works,
Mhm.
or you could decide that you want to branch out and tackle operating.
Yeah.
But
Why don't I stick to CIP then?
All right.
Can I join Hector on CIP again? I was on operating last year, but CIP my first year, so
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to CIP if I could.
Okay. You didn't like the school report you had to do?
No, I mean, I'm more project oriented, so
Yeah,
that
okay. Okay. Well, you will have to have a new member because each of the two subcommittees will have one new member. So we'll figure this one all out. Okay. Mark, can you take over the tax levy for 23?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just
Thank
a
you.
quick update for committee members. At the November Town Council meeting, we had the 2 votes that we conduct on an annual basis in order to set the tax levy, one being adopting a residential exemption percentage. The council has adopted a 20% residential exemption once again for the fiscal year 2023 tax bills. What that means, as most of you know, but for the benefit of our new members, is that a portion of the assessed valuation for a property owner who declares Barnstable as their primary residence is exempt from property taxes. And the amount that's exempt is equal to 20% of the average residential value. So it gives property tax owners who declare Barnstable as their principal residence a property tax break, but it doesn't change the amount of property taxes that are generated by the residential class. It shifts property taxes to second homeowners as well as property owners who declare Barnstable as their principal residence. Their assessed valuations exceed a certain assessed valuation amount, and that's around $1.68 million. And so if your principal residence in Barnstable is valued at about 1.68 million or less, you receive a tax break essentially on your property taxes. Above that, you're going to pay more in tax if this is your primary residence, as well as if you're a second homeowner as well. So that was adopted once again. It's been in place since fiscal year 2006. So we've had a 20% residential exemption in place for quite a few number of years. We could go as high as 35% under Massachusetts law. There's about 16 communities in total in Massachusetts who adopt this. You see it very common in towns or communities like Barnstable, whereby there's a significant portion of residential properties that are owned by that aren't principal residencies for many homeowners. So it is a tax levy shifting tool that provides provide some property tax relief to year-round residents in seaside type communities. The second vote by the council is annually, they must decide whether or not to shift a larger portion of the tax levy from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax classes. Barnstable is predominantly residential by nature. Almost 90% of our property valuation in town is residential properties. That results in if shifting any of that levy from the residential class to those other three classes results in very little savings to the residential class because it makes up such a significant portion of the property valuation in town. And so there's very little savings to the residential property owner by such a shift. But at the same time, there's also a significant negative impact on commercial property owners because they make up such a small percentage of our overall property valuation. It's about, I think, every $1 saved by a residential taxpayer, an equivalent commercial taxpayer assessed at the same value, we pay about $9 more. So it's not a tool that lends itself well because of the makeup of our property. It's something you see more common in Massachusetts, where there's a much higher percentage of commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers, much more than 10% like us. It's typically, you'll see it in a community that has at least 25% of their property valuation in the CIP class. And it's another mechanism that communities can use to try to save residential property owners some property taxes, but it's at the expense of your commercial taxpayers.
So we're keeping the same percentages between residential and commercial.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a long way of saying that. Sorry. So yep, those two votes have taken place, similar to same votes that were done for several years now.
Okay.
And those property tax bills will be going out at the end of this month. So in the bills that you'll see, they will reflect your new assessed valuation, and it will reflect the 20% residential exemption. And just be aware that residential values have increased significantly. Residential values are based on calendar year 2021 residential sales data that we've collected. The 2021 calendar year for residential properties in Barnstable, like it was across the country for that matter, it was a very strong residential real estate market. And so you're going to see significant increase in residential property values. But the offsetting factor to that is there's a significant drop in the tax rate as a result. And so the tax bill impact on a median home valued homeowner is about $196 a year, or about $16 a month, or 50 cents a day. It is essentially the impact of the increase in the tax levy.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, just as an aside, I've encountered a couple of people who are interested in signing up for the residential exemption. It's my understanding they have until the end of 3 months after they get their actual tax bill. Is that correct? They have to fill out that form and send it in to the treasurer or the assessor?
The assessors, yes. You have 3 months after the bills are issued, correct.
Okay, so by the end of March, round numbers.
And they have to be the property owner as of January 1.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go over the budget action calendar for fiscal 24?
Sure. So I think I sent that all out to committee members previously. We have a couple of important dates. Well, the two important dates for the committee members here are that you have your report due on the capital budget on Monday, April 10th. So we have until Monday, April 10th to complete the report on the proposed capital budget that'll be issued by the town manager on March March 6th is
Yeah.
when we plan on issuing the proposed capital budget. But in the meantime, we can set up some meetings with any department heads that you would like to meet with to go over their capital submissions. And then the other key important date is Monday, May 15th. That's when this committee's report on the operating budget is due.
Okay.
The town manager will be submitting the recommended operating budget on May 9th. But we will, as we always have, provide you information as we build that budget so that you can begin drafting your report. Again, this committee is not really, for the benefit of the newest members, this committee is not responsible for drafting a budget like traditional finance committees in towns would be. This committee just drafts a report on the submitted budgets prepared and submitted by the town manager. So those are the two important dates for us.
Thank you. Do you want to talk about the capital trust fund cash flow?
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Great.
Okay, can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
All right, so this is really an exercise in cash flow analysis to determine how much capacity we have within our capital trust fund to fund new projects in any given year. We prepare a 5-year capital program, and based on submissions that we receive, we try to project out, you know, what's the limitation we have on being able to fund those. We first of all, we receive a lot more submissions than what we can fund, and that's typical of most communities. But we want to try to create awareness of what our needs are by preparing a 5-year capital plan, knowing that we're not going to be able to finance all of these, but if grant opportunities present themselves, you know, we'll be in better position to go after those grants because we've analyzed a particular project and are ready to go. And in some cases have appropriated a matching share for that grant. So what we have here before you is that what the cash flow projection looks like for this funding mechanism. This fund is used to finance general fund capital. Most of our enterprise funds are responsible for financing their own capital programs, and that is factored into the rates that we set for our enterprise funds. We do have one exception to that, and that is our Highness Youth and Community Enterprise Fund. We don't generate nearly the amount of revenue we need to fund the capital program for that community asset, and that's really a community asset available to everyone. We only treat it as an enterprise fund operation so that we can track the accounting separately, so we can monitor what the amount of the subsidy is on an annual basis, just for internal management purposes and external reporting purposes. So in this model here, we're projecting to begin our fiscal year 24 with a balance of just over $15 million in the trust fund. We plan to commit another $13 million in general fund resources to the trust in fiscal year 24. And then from that, we start deducting our current commitments for existing debt service on prior year capital program. That existing debt service is about $7.4 million here on row 5 for fiscal year 24. And then on row 6, we need to account for all of the authorized and unissued debt to date that we've committed ourselves towards additional projects that we haven't gone out and borrowed the money for yet, but we need to make a provision for that. We have to anticipate that we're going to have to make those loan payments back when we do issue the bonds to fund those projects that have already been authorized by the town council. And so the estimated debt service on those projects is about $2.1 million. So we take that away. And then we have a cash program of $1.5 million for other capital projects that we don't borrow for, but we anticipate paying cash for. And then we have our public roads program that we're dedicating next year. We anticipate to dedicate $3.85 million for. So after we take away all those commitments, they total almost $15 million. We actually have a decrease in our trust fund balance of just over $1.4 million, and that's the line 10, the excess amount of line 10 over line 4. And so our ending trust fund balance is projected to go down to $13.9 million. And so in the subsequent years, we add a line here under 7A through 7E. We look at what is the capacity of this fund for additional borrowing authorizations that we can make in the out years, so we can get a sense of the size of the capital program we're looking at in those outer years. And so at around $10 million a year, which is about $1 million loan payment on average, that's what we can afford to absorb within the existing projected cash flows in this trust fund, along with an increasing cash program here and an increasing public roads program here. And at that point, we pretty much reach our capacity as highlighted here by 75% under fiscal year 2030. We can't exceed 80%. We're getting pretty close to that by fiscal year 2030 with this type of commitment. So we're looking at a $10 million debt finance program for the next 5 years with a cash program in the neighborhood of $5 to $7, $8 million a year. So that's our capacity. I mean, and that's, when you look at that, we're talking anywhere from $15 to $18 million a year, and the submissions that we received far exceed that.
Yeah.
So that's where we go through the process that we did, and we will do. We have that initial meeting that Wendy and Chuck attended, and the purpose for that initial meeting is to offer an opportunity for department heads to get a better understanding of what these projects are, ask their questions for clarification on issues, and to classify them under one of 4 categories, whether it's an imperative project, something we must do because of a regulatory requirement or an immediate public health or safety issue, or if it's something that's essential that we should do. Or if it's an important project that we could do, but it doesn't reach that level of that's essential or imperative. And then there's the last category, which is a desirable project, something you'd like to do, but it's not a need. And so that's the purpose of that first meeting. And then we have a second round of scoring that we go through that uses an evaluation criteria matrix that you've all seen before, at least the existing members have seen before. It ties pretty nicely with the town council strategic plan. And we ask everybody on the task force to evaluate those projects that were reviewed in this first meeting against those 10 criteria to give us a ranking as to which ones reach that highest level. And that's all provided to this committee. It's provided in the annual report that goes to in the proposed budget that goes to the town council. So we actually have 2 scoring processes that we go through to rank these projects because of the limited funding that we have. And so that's what we're looking at here for, just to give you a sense as to what we're looking at for a capital program for the next 5 years. It ranges between 15 to 18 million before we're tapped out. And then if we commit to those levels over the next 5 years, we're not going to have much of a capital program for the next few years until some of that debt service drops off. And then we can start picking up the capital again.
Yeah.
Or find more resources somewhere to increase the amount of resources that we're dedicating to the capital side of the budget. We've made a considerable increase in the funds dedicated to the capital side of the budget over the past 15 years. There was a point in time where we were only dedicating about $1.9 million a year. We're well over $13 million now. But $13 million doesn't buy a heck of a lot in projects anymore. When you figure that you convert that into a loan payment, $13 million annual loan payment, it's a big number, but the amount of capital that we have is 20 times more. So that's what we're looking at for the capital budget for the next 5 years.
And Mark, none of the comprehensive wastewater management plan is included in our capital trust. That's a completely separate set of books.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yes, that is completely separate.
That's a different elephant altogether.
Different
I
element,
just-
kind of like the enterprise funds, where we're trying to create funding resources that are just dedicated for that particular program. And we'll be coming forward, I believe, in the second meeting of the second meeting of the council in January to update the council on where we stand with funding that program and what our projects look like over the next 5 years.
I have a quick question, and I don't know if this is completely out of place, but I've been listening to some of the DEP video presentations with regard to the new regulations that will happen on Title V septic systems. And I don't know if you have any take on this, whether a resident will have to upgrade their system and then have to be forced into sewer somewhere down the line. It seemed a little confusing to me exactly what homes would qualify for what and when they would get hooked up to sewer, and whether it would be they'd have to do both of them. I'm not really sure if you have any sense of that, Mark.
Sure. So, and Councilor Schnapp, please jump in here too if I'm not correct in some of this, because this is it's very complicated. So, but what we're gleaning from the proposed regulations is that if you have an approved comprehensive wastewater management plan in place, like the town of Barnstable does, and if the property that they're talking, if the property is part of that plan, it sounds like they won't be required to upgrade their on-site system immediately because they're part of this plan over the next 20 years. However, if they're not part of that plan and they're within a water protected or an identified watershed area, there's the possibility that within a 5-year period, again, this is all proposed, right? Within a 5-year period, that property would have to upgrade their existing on-site Title V system to a new technology that is the latest available technology that removes nitrogen from, that does a better job of removing nitrogen, which, it's limited as to what exists out there right now. But there are people working on developing a better technology that would remove more nitrogen. But anything that does exist at this point in time does not remove nitrogen to the level that a public water or public sewers collection system would. So we'll see what happens when they finalize these proposed regs, but that's my understanding. If you're within that comprehensive wastewater management plan, you're part of this public sewer expansion, then these new regs won't necessarily apply to those properties. It's the ones that are not.
That makes a lot more sense to me. Is there any idea that the CWMP could be accelerated at any point?
Well, the kind of mismatch between what the DEP regulations are with the water permits is they want 75% of the nitrogen removed in 20 years. And in discussions with Mark Ells, it looks like our CWMP could probably meet those numbers. So it might be okay, but it's the devil's in the detail, and that's why we were kind of waiting for the final regs to come out to really look at the impact that these regs might have on our resident town. But our goal is not to have that, that certain people will be triggered to have to upgrade a system that may eventually, be on a sewer connection. So that we wouldn't want that to happen.
I've heard it said that the technology, and Wendy, I think you alluded to this, the technology that DEP is talking about isn't perfected yet, this new septic technology. So they're planning to promulgate new regs to require technology that's not final or that's not proven. Is that correct?
Well,
Depends on who we talk to.
yeah, I think a lot of the systems are kind of in beta testing. At least that's my understanding. And a lot of them show a lot of promise, but haven't gotten complete approval because they haven't completed that beta testing. And maybe I'm not completely accurate in that, Paula, but that's my sense.
I don't think these regulations specify any specific technology. Right now, they just say the best available.
Yeah, there are a variety of different technologies that are currently being implemented, and they do show reductions in nitrogens. None of them is, so there's many competing approaches right now. But as Hector says, they're not exactly proven like here's the best one that everyone should do. So as Paula says, I think until the regulations and you overlay that in terms of the plan, it's something to worry about, but there's nothing anyone can really do anything about, nor should they, because things are getting better. But it's going to need a long time to sort out. 5 years is a very aggressive time frame. I actually had another question, if I might. Of the capital and the trust fund, are there categories of projects that tend to dominate, or are the top 2 or 3?
Yeah, typically projects that protect current infrastructure that we have in place, like the town hall, school administration building, any school facility that we use to educate children in. Those assets that we use on a regular basis, we need to protect. Those tend to gravitate towards the higher priority. Other ones that typically gravitate towards the top are where grant opportunities have been presented, and we can offset a significant portion of the cost with a grant. Or if there is a significant public health or safety issue, an immediate public health or safety issue, those will jump to the top. So those are generally what we've seen happening over the past few years, of these protection of existing assets that are highly used, and those that have an immediate public health or safety component or a grant opportunity attached to it.
Thank you.
Before we leave the DEP issue, I thought that the public hearing that was held a couple of weeks ago generated a lot of interest from people all around the Cape. And 2 things struck me. One, many people still want to postpone it for another 20 years, which is really an amazing point of view. And the other thing that struck me was that many people are unaware of the area-wide 208 plan, which means that we have a lot of hurdles to overcome in order to get our CWMP funded.
Yeah, I would concur with you, Lillian. I think everything seems to be completely confusing, and I'm confused as a member of this committee. I can't imagine how a lot of residents feel about it at times. You know, the messaging is difficult because you've got almost two competing philosophies, and how do they intertwine? And in my opinion, my own personal opinion, it'd be great to be accelerating the CWMP quicker, so that, you know, at least that part we can control. But, you know, I know there's, you know, constraints to that.
Yeah. Well, we've got a plan for the next 5 years. And according to our existing resources, we can pay for 50%. Well, the other 50% has to be approved for a debt exemption or whatever. And if it's not approved, then it comes out of the operating budget. So, you know, there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, at least from the people I talked to in Katuitt, you know, they don't foresee them ever getting hooked up to the sewer system in any near distance or time. I know there's certain little areas that will in Katuitt, but they're very confused as to why they should buy on to the CWMP. I know it's a small village, but there still are some voters in Katuitt. You know, my whole philosophy is to them that, you know, we can't not do the sewer. You know, it's needed. We have to do it. And, you know, whether you're hooked up or not, we still have to support that project. And then for the people that won't be hooked up, we need to find a different way for them to reduce their nitrogen footprint.
Yeah, this is a project that is essential.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people look at it that way.
Well, if they care about the future of the town and its viability,
Right.
then, you know, you can't think about what your tax bill is going to be tomorrow. Anyway, we're talking, yeah.
I agree. I'm a huge clean water supporter. So anything we can do to support clean water, I'm on board.
Okay, we want to talk about the CIP projects.
Lillian, I'm sorry, I have to duck out.
Okay, have a safe trip.
Yeah, I have an early flight tomorrow, folks, so I've got to go to sleep soon to get up at 2:30. All right, thanks, and look forward to
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
See you in January.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, so we still have a quorum, so that's good. Do we want to look over the CIP list and determine who we want to, which departments we want to invite? Chuck, Wendy, could you get a sense from that meeting?
You know, it's difficult to say off the top of my head. Maybe Chuck has a better understanding of this, but I guess from my perspective, there were some duplications in things like storage and whatever. And I don't know if that's a DPW area. I mean, it seems like a lot of the projects are DPW. So I would assume that would be a good meeting to have. I don't know.
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, it was interesting to me, unless I'm misremembering, but you know, we went through the first 4 dozen projects and then we took a break. And I think it was communicated that when we came back after the break, the discussion would be about other projects that didn't make the top 48, but that people wanted to talk about. And my recollection is 90+% of those post-break projects were DPW projects. So just on sheer numbers, in addition to the overlap issue that Wendy brought up, I think DPW would be absolutely on my list if I were doing this.
Mhm. What were the school projects? Were they substantial again?
The only one that really, really sticks in my mind was the kitchen. project.
Well,
Where was that kitchen, Wendy?
Culinary arts.
Which I'm in full support of, by the way.
But that was one of the ones that was questioned, right? If I recall correctly.
It was questioned in a big way, but I think, you know, because of the public safety issues, it probably should get done. But that was the only one that really stuck in my mind, maybe just because of the controversy. But I'm sure there are other school projects that warrant looking closer at.
Yeah, I think the two others that come to mind were, and this is just because as a relatively new person on the committee, we've spent a lot of time talking about air conditioning units,
yes.
Right.
kind of in
Right.
general. And the school, I think, had temperature control units pretty high up on their list. And there was also talk in the schools, there was a safety issue around doors and windows. And it wasn't just a leaking thing, it was they were winging open and had the potential to do damage to either property or person. And so I thought there were a lot of things on and that's not including the kitchen controversy that Wendy brought up. So, I think the schools actually had some interesting submissions that kind of got to Mark's earlier comment about, not just, nice to haves, want to haves, have to haves, but there were some that were kind of existential almost. So I thought the school system would be a good candidate.
Okay. Because normally they have very big projects like new turf for the field and a new laboratory and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But if kitchen was their big thing, then But
Oh, I
you're
don't-
right. Their HVAC units are always have to be replaced every year. It's a remarkable thing. And last year we had the police.
We did.
We did. And sometimes we have airport. What are your thoughts on either of those?
I wouldn't mind hearing from the environmental affairs people because it seems like they have some significant needs. And I don't really know if I'm interpreting this correctly, but it seems like they need space and they need parking lots and their needs seem dire. And I don't know if that's part of DPW, if maybe some of these departments can overlap on that, but I think it'd be worth really focusing on what they need. And we've gone over a lot of the police projects already, but I'm happy to review those again.
Yeah, it sounds like Wendy and I were in the same meeting because the three that I would have said, if I just had to rank them, were the two we talked about and the marine stuff. And I thought the marine stuff was interesting for a couple of reasons. There is some overlap, a lot of it is infrastructure, it's building space and parking lots and that stuff. But there was a lot of stuff that the MEA group talked about that was environmental. It was water flow and erosion and water quality and fish. And there were just a number of things that I thought, we really haven't spent a lot of time on. I've worked on the police, I think, both years I've been on this, and I'm not sure I heard anything that would have been a remarkable deviation or addition from past reports. So those are the three that I would have said would be of the most interest to the group. But, it's an opinion.
So you're saying Marina?
Yeah, it's marine and environmental
Affairs.
affairs. That's it. So to me, yeah, the schools, the MEA and the DPW would have been the three that
Okay.
to me had the meatiest topics at the meeting.
What is included in the environmental affairs?
A lot of their projects are listed under the DPW category.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's things like fish runs, boat ramps, bulkheads, which DPW really manages the contracts associated with all of those. But they work closely with MEA to identify those project needs. But then really DPW manages the implementation of them. So yeah, we have a number of projects that are environmental in nature and some infrastructure in nature for this group. Which again includes some of the town marina, the bulkheads around the various waterside, both north and south side, a number of fish runs. There's a lot of money out there available right now through the National Resource Conservation Service. And so we saw there's quite a few projects submitted that have potential funding source through that agency, federal agency, that could help offset the cost of some of these. So maybe we bring in MEA, yeah, and DPW together on the same night.
I think that would be good.
Talk
Yeah.
about some of those projects.
Yeah.
If you think more about those.
Okay.
But again, remember, you're not preparing a list of recommended projects. You're going to be looking at the town manager's proposed budget
Right.
and commenting on that. But it's good to have to help you understand what the need is.
Yeah.
So we can bring them in and have them talk to you about those. And I agree with school department and DPW. Those are the departments you want to talk to. They manage 95% of all the capital.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we begin to do that? Would they be ready by January?
Sure, we can have them. I can invite them to your January meeting. We can do DPW MEA the first meeting in January, the schools the second meeting, or vice versa. I'll see what works better for them.
Let's see, if you're going to DPW along with the environmental affairs, that'll be good.
Yep.
So you want to try for the 9th?
Sure.
Okay,
I'll send an invitation out, see if they're available.
thank you.
Okay, I think Jackie just left, so you no longer
Okay.
have a quorum.
It is time for us to adjourn.
Funny how that works.
She'll be back.
We got through all the
So we had a good hour.
Do you have one more member or do you just have 6?
We have 6.
Okay, so we need to
Let's see,
get you
do
another.
we have 5? No, we have 4 now because Hector left and Jackie
No,
left.
you have 4 now, but I'm just saying, what's the total number of the committee? I
Oh,
thought,
We
Jackie's
have,
back.
we have 6.
Jackie might be back.
Mhm.
Oh, Jackie's back. Okay, so we're still in business. So we're looking at,
I'm sorry about that. I went to check the calendar. And it was-
It's okay, Jack.
I wanted to ask, I also wanted to ask, all the meetings for CFAC, are they always on a Monday evening?
yes,
Oh, okay. You said the 9th. I wanted to just double check what day it was. And, I got locked up.
the only time that it's not on Monday is when there's a Monday holiday. And with,
Okay.
and that time we go on a Tuesday.
Okay.
We are authorized to meet by Zoom through April. So what is the preference of the committee? We can continue to meet on Zoom, or we could meet in person. Town council is now meeting in person.
And
most of the time.
correct me, Mark, it's either Zoom or in person? It's not half and half, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well,
I guess I would prefer to do Zoom just for convenience. In case I travel, I can log on.
And Chuck does a lot of travel himself.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be traveling a lot in the first quarter, so just for quorum and continuity purposes,
Yeah,
I'd love to keep doing Zoom at least till our authorization ends.
okay. I'm okay with Zoom. Neil?
I'm okay with Zoom or in person. I'm retired, so I
Okay.
have flex.
Okay. Before we leave, because that's the agenda. Which of the new members would like to be on the capital subcommittee? And which one would like to be on operating?
I can do either wherever you need me.
And I'm flexible as well.
Okay. Well, Chuck and I are by default on the operating committee.
You guys make a good team.
Yeah.
What can you explain, Lillian, what is the difference between the operating committee and the CIP?
Well, CFAC has two responsibilities. We are to review the town manager's recommendations for the capital projects. We look at them, assess them, and write a report that is sent to both the town manager and the town council. The same is true of the town manager's proposed operating budget and we're working on fiscal year 24 right now. So the capital are all of the construction projects that are going forward, and they come out of both the capital fund and the enterprise funds, and the school and the operating budget funds the government operations plus the schools.
I like that. I would like to do that.
Which one would you like to do?
The operating.
Okay. Well, Neil, that puts you on capital.
Make it easy.
Okay. All right. And if you know how to scribe, you will be a very coveted member of the subcommittee. All right. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Not hearing any, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a
second.
second?
A second.
Before we take a vote, let me just say to Jackie and Neil, if you have any questions about process or how we do it, please get in touch with us. I think you have all of our emails. We'll be happy to sit down with you. We cannot talk to you about specific items that we're going to discuss, but we can talk to you about the process. So we are here, and we don't want to just throw you into the briar patch. So feel free to call us.
I think that when Mark was discussing the capital trust fund, there was a lot of information that he alluded to, but just looking at the details, you couldn't tell where the sources were. So that was just one of the things that I thought about. The information was more of a summary and not detailed, and so just following along, it was easy to follow along, but the sources from which they came was not on the information. I tried reading through all the information that was available. And,
Okay, but know that we're here if you have any questions.
yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
far,
I do.
Excuse me?
I went through the last 2 years' reports on the capital budget and the operating budget, actually. Would you expect the next year's reports to be similar in structure?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We have a general template, and unless there's something extraordinary that happens, we look at the proposed budget, and the subcommittee discusses it, and you flesh together a draft and then bring it to the full committee. And we will review it. And once the whole committee has approved it, it is then forwarded to the town manager and town council. Thank you for being so conscientious and reading through all of our great reports.
I wanted to know what I was volunteering for.
Yeah. Well, there's no great suspense or character development, but it's there. Anyway, as you know, we are very informal, and we express our opinions very, very freely. If there's no other question or comment, Chuck, will you call the roll on the motion to adjourn?
Well, Lillian,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Chuck is yes.
Thank you all very much. It's so wonderful to meet again. Have a good
Absolutely.
and safe
Happy holiday.
holiday.
All right.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you.